So a while back, I ran into this pea balloon puzzle level where you use these munchers on lifts, activating the lifts so that you can basically make a little bridge for Goombas. I thought, you know, this idea is really cool. Like, it's really novel. Haven't seen anything like this before. Well, it turns out this is a precision puzzle, meaning that it's both a puzzle and a precision level. Meaning that even if you know what the solution is, you basically have to play a precision level in the process of solving the puzzle, and if you fuck up, you die. Like, there's no pea balloon to reset. Right now, we're basically dead. And I really didn't like that. Like, I personally find lethality in puzzle levels to be a major turnoff. Some people like it, I don't. So what I chose to do is take this core idea and make a puzzle level in my own style around it. Now, my intention here isn't to throw shade at anyone, rather I'm contrasting with that intro level to show off my style of making puzzles. Today I'll be focusing on the structure of my pea balloon puzzle level and how I built it with a very different design philosophy. For starters, when it comes to puzzle levels, I absolutely hate any sort of lethality, soft locks, or SD locks. Why? Because in my opinion, puzzles are about thinking through the solution to see like how the puzzle piece is supposed to come together, and not about actually doing the puzzle. Like, unlike a platformer or Kaizo level where Mario inherently has fun, like, you know, just jumping around, a puzzle that you already solved has no replay value as a puzzle because you already know the solution. So naturally, anything that forces you to repeat the same puzzle level over and over and over again is just sending you to do tedious busy work of inputting your solutions again. So see here in this example, the way that I've lined up this intro room, right? Like with this puzzle, I'll talk about the structure a bit later, but the way I designed this puzzle, here if I put the wrong solution in first, oh, now I'm soft locked. Whoops, soft locks are bad, right? So let's fix it. Let's fix it by adding a death spike, all right? Because that will fix the problem, right? Not really, you're still fucked. Like here, if you put in the wrong solution, thanks, you gave me a death spike. That literally changes nothing about the fact that this is a dead state of the puzzle, and I'm not really like, if I put in any time into the puzzle before this, then that still needs to be input because I have to kill myself in order to like do it again. So instead, what I'm gonna put in is a reset door here, so that if you fuck up, you can just, you know, try again, and trying again is faster than resetting the whole level. And this is gonna be a general trend throughout the puzzle level as a whole. Now, another point of lethality that you see is a big difference between this level and the puzzle level that we saw before is the use of munchers in the previous level versus chain chomp stumps. Basically, the previous level chose munchers as a precision-based challenge. So like you have to like maneuver around the munchers to avoid taking damage, maneuver precisely. I don't want lethality in this level. I want it to be about moving the blocks to make the bridge. And so instead what I did is I chose literal stumps, like little blocks that are immediately made by hitting a POW the moment the screen spawns, the moment the screen loads, in order to basically get some nice safe blocks that Mario can like touch and work with and still get blocked by all the same way. It just doesn't automatically like put you easily in a situation where you have to reset the room over and over and over again every time you get touched by a block, right? So let's kind of like talk about the structure about this level as a whole now. This is a puzzle gauntlet. So rather than having like one giant puzzle, this entire level is several puzzle rooms in a row as a puzzle gauntlet. And so because it's a puzzle gauntlet instead of just like a one-screen puzzle, there's a lot more room for a difficulty curve and for bringing in ideas and teaching the player as they go along, right? Puzzle gauntlets are a great way to give out bite-sized puzzles for a very chill puzzle playing experience. So you can see that each room is completely self-contained in the entire puzzle gauntlet. Basically, each room has its own key, has its own win condition, completely self-contained. You don't need to move items or Mario between rooms in order to like solve any individual challenge. And just in case, I use one-way doors like blocking them with semi-solids or with POWs in order to really make sure that doesn't happen. Now this stops from the level as a whole from being an, oh, I need to remember to bring that P-switch from 4 rooms ago experience, which can turn the whole level into a slog memorization and item smuggling. Now, what the player does take between rooms, though, is the knowledge of any mechanics that they learn in the process of solving each individual challenge. So I'll start by explaining the very first room, which is the absolutely most important room to any level, puzzle or otherwise, and especially, I mean, even more for a puzzle gauntlet, and explain that how the rooms evolve as we go deeper into the level, right? So with the very first room, it's basically a gimme puzzle, all right? There's basically two potential things to interact with. You have these two lifts, right? The lift on top or a lift on the bottom. If you pick the top one, and I put this little lip of this flimsy lift out to the side a little bit farther out to bait out basically the wrong answer. Usually, you don't want to do this. But in a puzzle gauntlet in the very first room, this can be helpful to basically like teach the player, by the way, now we can't interact with this anymore. Order matters. And so now they learn with minimal time cost that, by the way, order is going to matter for the rest of the puzzle gauntlet, right? Another thing that you'll learn from this puzzle, from this very first room, is the format of the puzzle level as a whole. So the rules. Basically, here you see, like working backwards, you need to get inside this key door. Key door obviously means you win. To get through the key door, we need a key, which is marked here. To get this key, we need to get the wiggler, who can't cross because he needs a bridge. And the only way to get the bridge is obviously to drop the stumps in some way from these lifts to get them down here. And so from this format, because the puzzle is so extremely simple, the rules are being explained to the player without any sort of like, you know, we don't need text or anything. We can just have the player like intuitively see the layout of the puzzle level to see, okay, we gotta do this, and then there. Now we have a bridge, the wiggler walks across, and so we win. Next room. All right, this is all by design, all right? Why would I include a free puzzle? That's so that then when we go into the following rooms, the layout of the level, like the base rules for how every room is structured, is already implanted into the player's mind. Like you don't need to like the player doesn't have to worry about, okay, how does the wiggler work? How does the key door, how's the keying mechanism work? Like, no. That was already, like, they've done this before, so they don't even have to, like, have that thought process. That way the player can completely 100% focus on the puzzle that's at hand. And this allows you to have a puzzle which is individually a lot more challenging than if we didn't do this. This lets us basically ramp up the difficulty curve more quickly. Now, in terms of what happens in between rooms, now this is the first room where we're introducing some new mechanics. A lot of players, they don't actually know that the stumps can actually activate P-switches. Like in playtesting, I've just seen that some people don't know that. And so what can happen here, and I'm not gonna give away too many spoilers for this puzzle level, but if you get the wiggler across, you'll notice that this wiggler will not cross that P-switch. And the only thing in this column that can possibly interact with these P-switches that could give you any sort of chance of making progress is this stump. And so the player at this point is basically forced to learn and observe that a stump is going to activate P-switches if it comes into contact with them. All right? Additionally, this room also teaches the player that you can come into lifts from below when you're trapped otherwise. All right? So what I'm doing with the puzzle gauntlet as a whole is that each room brings in some new mechanics. It teaches the player, here's some new interaction that you may not have already known, and brings it into the player's knowledge base while also giving them a puzzle that ramps up in difficulty. Here, before we only had like a little bit of ordering, now we have 6 platforms here that need to be activated, and there's a little bit of order to it. Like you activate some of them in the wrong order, like again, if we do this one first, we can no longer beat this room because we can't activate this lift. And so we're reinforcing old mechanics while also adding some complexity. Now, as we go deeper and deeper into the puzzle, we basically add new and newer steps. So here, for example, we are adding in hidden blocks with a little hint, by the way, if you don't understand that track blocks mean you have a hidden block inside, here's your sign. While also adding in P-switches that you can activate yourself. Additionally, later on in the puzzle, I introduce some bombs with on-off switches that also interact with the stumps. in different ways and different sorts of blockages. So keeping that same core, the same core mechanic of stumps and lifts, but bringing in some new ideas, new puzzle elements that are kind of intuitive how they work, but the player hasn't really seen how like the old puzzle elements interact with the new puzzle elements yet, while also just having some complexity. And this is how you can build a really satisfying difficulty curve for a puzzle level, even while everything is pretty intuitive and pretty straightforward. Like, even though nothing here is like a huge leap in logic, it still feels very satisfying. Like, basically all the playtesters I've seen play this have had a very positive experience with it as a result, because it's like you're constantly bringing in new ideas. And that's one of the biggest strengths of a puzzle gauntlet as a whole. Because you're building in rooms in series, a puzzle gauntlet lets you iterate on that same core, adding in new things from room to room. Now, at risk of repeating myself, I feel like I've kind of gotten across the major points. If you're interested in trying out the puzzle for yourself, you can see the level ID in the description below. If you're interested in this sort of content, please feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you around.